Ladies and gentlemen of the Bleacher Report world, welcome back to yet another Raiders recap, reaction, breakdown, where we talk about another loss. I will say this as a Raider fan, it is a little liberating to watch your team lose and feel next to nothing. Although that does kind of go away when it's in the fourth quarter and they're down a possession and you're like, I shouldn't care about this. They probably should lose this game, but I can't help but stand up and try to will my team into the end zone. And instead, they have a drive to go down and tie the game or whatever, and they don't even get a first down. And Gardner Minshew shatters his collarbone, a la Jason Campbell. The second I saw him holding that, I flashed back to Jason Campbell. I said, I know what that is. I've seen this story before. Jason Campbell, a little bit better than Gardner Minshew. But you guys know the drill. If you're watching this live on Bleacher Report, thank you so much for joining me. Let's get things going in the chat. If you're watching live or not live, post live after the fact on YouTube, what's going on? Hit that subscribe button, drop likes, drop comments. If you're watching me on Bleacher Report, I do have a YouTube channel. I already got a comment in here. You know, this would be a hell of a start to a movie or documentary. It's the success story of the upcoming Raiders. It'd be like Moneyball 2. And that was the Oakland Athletics. So, look, initial thoughts on this game. Competitive, no doubt about it. And we're going to get into, the biggest flaw with the Raiders so far this season. We're going to get into grading the effort. We're going to get into the idea of tanking and are you a fan of competitive losses? And as I'm waiting for more people to join in the chat, I want you guys to either comment in the chat or comment after the fact on YouTube. Where are you watching this video? I enjoy seeing or live stream. I enjoy seeing where viewers are located all over the world. I saw somebody a couple weeks ago say they were from Brazil. That just blew my mind. Someone's watching me from Brazil. I don't even know what time it is there. But okay. So make sure we're firing away in the chat. I'll be reading all that. And let's get into the box score as we do, because again, it is a familiar story. Another box score in which the Raiders play the team that they're playing pretty evenly. I mean, if we look at it right now, the total yards were basically identical. Passing yards, we had a little bit more. Rushing yards, we had a little bit more. Yards per play was the same. We had a couple more first downs. They were a little bit, they were a little bit better on third down. We were 2 for 2 on fourth down. Total plays, we had more. Obviously, if you take the garbage time drive away at the end, it even gets closer. It gets a little bit closer. Penalties was basically even. Time of possession was even. But a tale as old as time, folks. We lose the turnover battle. Okay. So before we get into, tanking, I see a lot of people saying tank, 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 tank. And before I get into, you know, talking about the biggest problem with the Raiders offensively, defensively, I want to put this poll out there, and I might get a lot of flack for this, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this as we continue to talk about, the struggles of a team that was 2-2 and is now 2-9. 7 straight losses for a team that was coming off a win against the Baltimore Ravens and a home opener against the Panthers, in which we started looking ahead of the schedule and counting off a bunch of wins. No doubt about it. That's what I was doing. As a Raider fan, and we all need to have a serious discussion and conversation about the idea of tanking and the idea of competitive losses. Is this something you are happy with? Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, every time I watch the Raiders, I root for them to win every single game. Until we are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, I do not want them to lose anything. And even when we are mathematically eliminated, I still want them to win. My rationale is I understand that losing games, tanking, whatever, is better for the future of the Raiders. However, I'm not guaranteed to wake up tomorrow. Why would I want to plan for 2-3 years down the road, right? If I'm not guaranteed another day, I want to watch my team win every time they play. With that being said, sometimes the roster that you put out there is not competitive enough to win consistently. And whether that is injuries or coaching or the GM bringing people in, that's the reality of the situation, right? So The question is posed. Are you happy with these losses if they show a little bit of fight and edge and competitive spirit? And what I will say yesterday, and as we get into the team stats a little bit, or the player stats, they were competitive, you know? They were about as competitive as you can be against a team that has a better coaching staff, against a team that has the top defense in the league with the roster that you put out there. I'm not going to talk about Gardner Minshew again. We know, excuse me, how bad he is. We know how bad he is. I'm not going to talk about the run game. We were running Sincere McCormick and Amir Abdul out there. But there are bright spots in terms of the effort, and I think that goes deeper into the psyche of this team wanting to play for Antonio Pierce. And we'll talk about the coaching and Antonio Pierce in a second. But as we break down the box score, Gardner Minshew, another day, another 42-yard pass game where he threw for under 250 yards, one touchdown, one pick, one of the worst picks I've ever seen. AJ Cole, shout out to AJ Cole, perfect quarterback rating. The run game was okay. I would like to have seen us run the ball a little bit more. I think Scott Turner got a little pass happy. Jacoby Myers showed up today because they doubled and tripled Brock Bowers with Patrick Surtain, one of the best corners in the league, guarding him. He had a little bit of a welcome to the NFL moment there where he wasn't able to completely dominate, but Jacoby Myers showed a lot yesterday, and Divine Diablo had one reception for 34 yards. So, let's see. I see some people saying, "Let's tank, let's tank, let's tank," and the reason why I'm asking people, "Are you happy with competitive losses?" is because, look, the idea of tanking is losing on purpose. Just so you know, nobody in the NFL loses on purpose. If you don't try 100% when you're on the field, that's a one-way ticket to getting a bad injury. So you can't do that. It's not like basketball. I think I said this last week, where you could just kind of stand in the corner. Oh, I'm gonna take a little jumper, dribble the basketball, save my energy, and tank. That's not possible. That's not something you can do in the NFL. And if you lose games on purpose, you will get fired. So the idea of tanking is absolutely not happening. I think what the Raiders fans have to come to terms with is that this roster that's being out there is not good enough to win games, right? And the idea that we're I mean, you know, it's not possible. It doesn't make any sense. However, I understand completely the idea of wanting a higher draft pick. The only problem with that is even the first overall pick doesn't guarantee you anything, because who was the first pick last year? Caleb Williams. Is he the best quarterback in this draft class? He looked great, and only time will tell. Last week he looked great. Or yesterday he looked great. Only time will tell. But I think as of right now, we can confidently say he might not have been the single best quarterback in this draft class. How about 2 years ago? Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. I think CJ Stroud and Will Levis look better than Bryce Young so far. However, Bryce Young looked good yesterday. So again, only time will tell. My point is, the first overall pick in the draft doesn't guarantee you anything. And I'm not breaking any news to anybody, but you have to be able to make the guy. You have to be able to make the pick, right? And that has to do with the GM, the coach, and whoever our new offensive coordinator is. Just because you make the right pick doesn't mean he's going to turn out to be that good. Look at Sam Darnold. He needs to go to Minnesota 6 years later on his third or fourth football team to show the potential of why he was a first round pick. All right, so let's read a little bit here. Yeah, we competed with Minshew. I love Minshew Mania, but just to back up my opinion, I knew the season was a loss once they named Boogshoe the starter. I mean, that's not what I'm calling him. That's what you're calling him. If we're going to tank, let's at least cover this spread. I mean, if you're betting on the Raiders, you got another problem coming. That's probably something I would not advise. Okay, so speaking of the effort, right? I want to talk about the effort yesterday. So most people are not happy with competitive losses, and I would agree. I'm not happy with losses in any stretch of the imagination. There are no moral victories in football. That's the classic thing that good coaches say, and I would agree. But let's talk a little bit about the effort. Okay? And this isn't grading, you know, the roster, right? I'm talking about the people that are on the field and how hard they played, because we saw effort under Josh McDaniels. It was not good. That team gave up. I think we could see a little bit of give up in some teams this year, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who lost to the Lions 56 28-7 was that the final score. I want people to grade the effort level of the Raiders, these past few weeks and this week in particular, because again, I just want to make this a point of emphasis. They went up against, pound for pound, the best defense in the National Football League. We understand the myriad of injuries that the Raiders have suffered. We're not going to talk about them. Every team has injuries, but we have a lot of them, no doubt about it. They have a rookie quarterback who's playing very well, and they have one of the best head coaches in the National Football League. And we were up at half. We scored the most points we did in a half in a whole season in 13, which isn't great, straight up, but that's the most points we scored in a half so far, 13. It's the first time we scored more than 10 points in a half, 13. And it's clear that this team wants to play for Antonio Pierce. Now, maybe part of it is people like Max stuck their necks out for this guy, and they feel personally responsible maybe for where the team has been so far, and they want to show that, no, this guy, we believe in this guy. We believe in Patrick Graham. We believe in Scott Turner. So they're playing hard, man. I cannot deny that their effort is an A minus, B plus kind of grade. And my point to bringing this up is this: competitive losses, whether you are happy with them or not, they will buy Antonio Pierce some time. And I broke this down on my YouTube channel. I think if we lose every game, okay, but they all look slightly like this, different versions of this, right? Because we play Kansas City Black Friday. Aiden O'Connell is coming back, and he will be the starter. Unless he's not healthy, then it'll be Desmond. But completely healthy, it'll be Aiden. If it's a one-possession game in the fourth quarter, which it could be, the Chiefs are vulnerable. This was a one-possession game. We were up at half. I think Mark Davis is going to take a step back and go, okay, a bunch of injuries. Let's just get a quarterback and let's give AP another year. And again, this is not me wanting this to happen, although I understand the logic. And maybe down the road, let's reevaluate and take a deep breath at the end of the season. And maybe I will want this to happen. But regardless of what me or you want, the fact of the matter is, when we play competitively with inferior rosters, that's going to buy Antonio Pierce some time, and it's going to buy him another season. Because I understand, the vibrato and the speeches and the attitude that he brings. It can get a little stale when you start losing a lot of football games. However, you got to take a step back and go, well, what's he supposed to do? He wanted Jaden Daniels. The word on the street, I said it before, is that we offered the Commanders 3 first-round picks. They said no for obvious reasons. Wanted Cliff Kingsbury. We signed him. There was a contract dispute. That's not on AP. That's on the front office and Mark Davis. So he tried to sign that package deal, trade up for the package deal. Didn't work out. We had to pivot to Gardner, whatever. We wanted to draft Michael Penix. Again, word on the street is that there was like an agreement between the Vikings, the Broncos, and the Raiders. Vikings, you'll take JJ. Broncos will take Bo. We'll take Michael Penix. All of a sudden, the Falcons trade up. The whole thing goes into disarray. We don't get Michael Penix. So Antonio Pierce, the things that he said that he wanted to do would have been best for this team. Right? He now has a team riddled with injuries. He had to fire his offensive coordinator, who was not the first choice that he wanted, right? The offense has improved slightly since Luke Getzey's been gone, and the team continues to show fight. And I do think that's a big A-plus positive on the resume so far of Antonio Pierce. He's got a lot of negatives. And I see Dead Pitch say he's not supposed to like Instagram posts. I don't disagree with that at all. I do not want my coach playing into any sort of social media nonsense. However, at the time, it felt a little weird that he was like online kind of poking the whole Davante Adams bear. Since then, it seems as though Davante Adams is not somebody that I would want on my team, and that's all I'm going to say. He seems like a great guy and a great father and a good teammate when he wants to be, but the idea that he said out loud on a show where he says he doesn't want to stir up any drama, at least with the Jets, I feel like we have a chance. Hey, Davante, if you're watching, because I know you do watch a lot of, social media stuff, even though you say you don't have a chance with the Jets. We lost to the Chiefs by 7. If you play in that game, we might win this game. And you know what's funny? Not to go on a whole Devontae Adams tangent here, but if Devontae Adams had any foresight to see how bad the Jets were, he would have stayed here, and then your boy Aaron Rodgers would be in Vegas next year. But instead, Aaron Rodgers is not going to be on the Jets next year because the Jets don't want him. And now you're stuck there unless you request for another trade, and the Jets aren't getting a third for you. They'll get maybe a sixth. Sorry, that's a little bit of a tangent. All that to say, I do think if the team continues to look competitive, Antonio Pierce will be back next year. Whether or not you like it, I do think that is the situation. Okay. So, I didn't expect to go on that tangent, but the next thing I want to talk about is the fatal flaw with the Raiders this season, and I have my take on this, and I'm going to pull up a poll in a second, but before I put up the poll, I want you to comment in the chat. What if you had a magic wand, right, and you could fix one thing about the Raiders right now, bippity boppity boop, boom, it's fixed. What would it be? Now, I know when we start listing things, it's this, it's that. You can say, well, it's everything. There are too many things to fix. Okay, I get it. But if you had to pinpoint, this is really the sole reason, or this is the biggest factor as to why the Raiders aren't winning right now. I want to hear what it is. Do you think it's the roster? Is it the coaching? Is it the injuries? Is it the running game? Because I see a great defense, the running game, run game, never traded car. Okay, these are all things that I want to see here. Here is my thought process. I do think in every single game that we've been competitive in, there has been one thing that we've lost in every single game. And in the Ravens game in particular, there was one thing that we did that put us in a position to win the game. And I'm not saying that if you fix this, we'd be 11-0 or whatever. But in the Ravens game, when we needed to force a turnover, Robert Spillane forced a turnover. And I do think, as I put this poll up, if I had to fix one thing right now, if I could turn this Raiders team into a team that did blank, I would say it is win the turnover battle. Go look at all my past streams and breakdowns. Every single time we lose a game by one possession or by a possession and a half where we could have won, we scored a garbage time touchdown. The turnover margin, we are the worst team in the league. It's like minus 18. Gardner Minshew has more picks than touchdowns. And again, the idea that it's not one thing, it's everything, right? It's everything. I know it's everything. But if we're just focusing on one thing, I need to find a way for this team, whether that's forcing more turnovers on defense, whether that is protecting the ball on offense. The turnover margin has been the fatal flaw of this team. And yesterday, again, it reared its ugly head on the final drive. And I'm not blaming Desmond Ridder for this. What's he supposed to do? He's not very good, and he comes in and he gets hit and he fumbles, and that's it. But on the final drive, instead of going down the score, we turn the ball over. In the middle of the game, where we can take control of the game, Gardner Minshew throws a pick. I can think of multiple times. The Denver Broncos game the first time, it was going to be 17-6 or 17-3. Instead, Gardner Minshew pick six the other way. The home opener against the Chargers, we can go up double digits. We can get the ball at half. Instead, Gardner Minshew throws a backward pass to nobody. It's recovered by the other team. Against the Steelers, we have the ball at the goal line to make it a one-possession game with the whole quarter to go, and we fumble at the 1 yard line. To me, this is not rocket science. And maybe you vote for coaching because coaching teaches bad habits, whatever. But at the end of the day, we consistently turn over the football. And if you're going to be a team that puts the ball on the ground, the defense has to find a way to counteract that. And when I made my win-loss prediction video, I made it under the assumption that we would need to have and have to have and are going to have a Pittsburgh Steelers type defense. And when you watch the Pittsburgh Steelers play, you look up and you go, how are they winning some of these games? It's because TJ Watt or Hayward or Minka is making a play where the other team is driving and is in the red zone to get the ball back to the offense. I said it until I was blue in the face in the offseason. We needed to have a defense that would win us some football games. And right now, we do not have that. We haven't had it basically the whole season. We had it a little bit in the beginning when everybody was healthy, and injuries have a lot to do with that. But the second Wilkins and Kuntz and Epps went down, and yesterday, no Bennett or Hobbs, it was kind of over. You're gonna have, and I wanted Aiden O'Connell to start. I was saying this when I thought Aiden was going to start, somebody who doesn't turn the ball over nearly as much as Gardner Minshew. Now with Minshew, you're going to need this defense to be the 85 Bears, and they're not. And I think next season we need to focus. Obviously, getting guys healthy is a big plus. The defense is going to be leaps and bounds better than it was this year, next year, just because of the health. I think we need to put a big time point of emphasis on the idea of protecting the football and forcing turnovers on defense. Do you guys know how many teams in the NFL are yet to recover a fumble? It's one, and it's us. The next lowest teams, it's like the Jags and the Giants or whatever, have recovered at least 3. The Las Vegas Raiders are yet to recover a fumble, unless I'm forgetting one that they recovered yesterday. They are yet to recover a fumble. And then you look up and you're 2-9. So to me, in order of things I would fix on this poll right here, it's turnover margin, it's the offensive unit, and then it's coaching. Obviously, if I could wave my wand and heal all the injuries, that would be great too. But I don't know, man. And I see someone say right here, so Minshew is the key to the turnover margin. He's not helping it at all, but I absolutely foresaw this defense being able to counteract it a little bit. He's turning the ball over at an unbelievable clip. But the defense, I mean, he turned the ball over in the Ravens game, and what happened? We got the ball right back. We flipped the possession game on its head when Spillane picked off Lamar Jackson. That's the key. If you're going to have somebody turn the ball over, you need to try to get it back. And the defense right now is not good enough, injuries, coaching, whatever, to counteract it. That's the problem. That's the issue. So let's see. It doesn't take a genius to see that Gardner Minshew is not our starter. Yeah, I understand. We were doing good on defense. We have a good turnover, and then we have a turnover on offense. Minshew usually has a turnover every game, and the air usually gets let out of the game. And that happened in the first Bronco game. AP knows he has 2 years because why else are you running Minshew out there week after week? I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, I don't think Desmond Ridder would be much better, but it is what it is. I think Aiden's going to be there next year. Pittsburgh D and is 8-3, and they have played sub quarterback, but no limit turnovers. Yeah, I agree. You would fix that pitcher fix our run game. Our defense is not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Xavier said he would have a quarterback. Castillo said Pittsburgh type defense, and that's what I thought we would have. Busy Banks says run game, a great defense, and then Wavy Twin says the run game. Yeah, look, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not claiming that we are fixing the offense away from winning a Super Bowl, right? Although it would be nice. But again, and like I said, I know that all of these are reasons why. It's a combination. Totally understand that. But if AP runs it back next year and they keep Scott Turner or they find another offensive coordinator, my 2 top options are Wes Welker. He is the wide receivers coach and pass game coordinator of the Miami Dolphins, or Josh McCown, who is the quarterbacks coach for the Minnesota Vikings. Those are my 2 options right now to take over for the OC spot if Scott Turner isn't the guy, because you're going to have to try to find guys who are position coaches that will be one day promoted to offensive coordinator positions. I don't think you're going to get a Kellen Moore who has went from the OC of the Chargers to the OC of the Cowboys, or vice versa to now the OC of the Eagles. Although he's got the Eagles rocking and rolling. There's my famous catchphrase, rocking and rolling. You got the coaching staff has to emphasize winning the turnover battle, and that doesn't mean playing scared. AP pulls the quarterback and says, "Don't turn the ball over." That probably doesn't put them in the best mindset, but you've got to be able to find a way to balance the line of not turning the ball over and playing loose. And that's on the coaches. So we'll see what happens. Next week, phones are blowing up here. Okay. Next week, Black Friday, this week, 4 days. Black Friday, Raiders Chiefs, ironically, in Kansas City, ironically, Aiden O'Connell to be the starter. Here's what I want these last few games. I want to be competitive, and I want to see what we have in Aiden. I don't foresee him playing well enough to win the starting job next season or to stop us from drafting a quarterback unless we win out. I don't see that happening. However, with Aiden, I want to see if he has the capabilities of keeping the train on the tracks like he did last season and potentially being the backup for the Raiders moving forward, because you need a good backup in this league to be able to survive if you draft a rookie who you need to bench because he isn't playing well right off the bat or gets hurt. You need to have a good backup, and Aiden has shown a little bit, right? So let's see these last few games if he stays healthy, if we can be competitive, and if he can be the backup moving forward, because it would be nice to have a backup on a fourth-round rookie contract. What do I expect out of the Kansas City game? I expect us to be competitive. It's going to be a hostile environment, but they're vulnerable this season. If we go in there and get waxed, it's not going to look good for Antonio Pierce. Antonio Pierce won the job, on merits of what he did last season as a whole, but mainly because we went into Kansas City and beat them on Christmas Day. One of the most highly televised, viewed regular season football games in the history of planet Earth. The Raiders beat the Chiefs in Kansas City and sent Taylor Swift home in tears. So if we are competitive in this game, again, I think it's going to go a long way into having him keep the job. If not, we might have to have a separate discussion. But, you know, it's unfortunate we've lost 7 games in a row starting out the season 2-2. I thought the season was going to go differently. Injuries have absolutely riddled us. And there's been a lack of cohesion with the coaching staff and with the quarterback position. And that's just not a recipe for success in the NFL. So I understand we want to look to the future, but we still got, 6 games to go here. Let's evaluate Brock Bowers. Let's evaluate these rookie linemen. Let's evaluate Aiden O'Connell. Let's see what we have moving forward. If you're watching me on Bleacher Report, thank you so much. If you're watching me after the fact on YouTube, hit that like button, drop comments in the comment section below. Make sure you're subscribing. If you're watching me on Bleacher Report and you don't know that I have a YouTube channel, it is right here. Where is it? Right here. ALLaBorde Raiders. Type that in. I'll pop up. I do like 3 or 4 videos a week. We got Patreon. We got the whole 9 yards. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. I will see you on Saturday at – hold on. Let me get the schedule right. I believe it's Saturday at noon. Where are we at here? November schedule, Saturday, noon Eastern. That's when I will see you to recap the hopefully win against the Kansas City Chiefs. Wouldn't that be hilarious? Aiden O'Connell will be 2-0 in Arrowhead. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.